Ba-ba-da-ba-bum. Right, hello everyone. We're live. Let's play the intro.
Britain is one of the greatest.
No, what a fuck up. Oh my god. Guys, sorry about that. God damn it. You know, it's been a long day. I went for a walk on the beach. And now I'm being a retard. Let's have a look. Output. Oh my god. Here we go. Right.
Britain is one of the.
Oh my god, it's a total failure. Jesus Christ almighty. Jesus wept. Guys, what an embarrassing beginning to the stream. I'm sorry about this. I thought it was set up. Here we go. Let's try this again. Let's try it again, guys. Oh my fucking god. Right. Bush.
Greatest countries. Britain is one of the greatest countries in the history of the world. You were the country of Shakespeare, the steam engine. You defeated Napoleon. You destroyed the slave trade. My country, America, became great as it is because of what we inherited from you, from Britain.
Oh my god. Do you know, it really does just get me every single time. I don't know what it is, man. I don't know what it is about this flipping video. Do you know, let's keep it on this guy. This guy's a legend. That's the protester in the video. Anyway, guys, 4 people watching. This is going to be a laid-back stream. Just having a bit of a ramble. As I said, went for a walk on the beach. Had a nice chilled out day. Got some sunlight. Had an ice cream. Been thinking about things all day long. I was thinking I'd sit down and do a video and kind of clarify some of the things I was saying last night about entryism and about politics, about this, that, and that. So I've had all these thoughts going around my head, and then I thought, well, it looks like Andy Burnham's going to be the Prime Minister, because today Keir Starmer says he's thinking about resigning. And so, yeah, your mate Keir is resigning. Your mate... I've never defended him. I guess you're just winding me up, but whatever. So I thought I'd make a video about Andy Burnham and Georgism, right? Let's get into it, okay? So what is Georgism? Georgism is a progressive... Because why am I saying this, by the way? Because Andy Burnham apparently is a Georgist. According to Grok, you do a Grok search, blah, 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 blah. Let's have a look. In 2010... he wrote a Guardian article titled Land Value Tax, not old or new Labour, but true Labour. Okay, so interesting. So he's a Georgist. So what is... sorry, let me just click on this. What is Georgism, guys? Yeah, what is it? What is it? Even his wife isn't his mate. What is Georgism, guys? Georgism is a progressive ideology that appeared in America. And it was started by a guy called Henry George. And they've tried to relabel it and rebrand it and call it Geoism, whatever. But essentially, Henry George wrote a book called Progress and Poverty in 1879. It was a very, very popular and successful book. And in this book, Henry George advocated for the establishment of a land value tax. And the idea of the land value tax is that you should simplify taxation. You should only have one tax. That should be a land value tax. And by doing so, you will prevent rich people from monopolizing the land, essentially. And so you will create a system whereby everybody gets a slice of land, and if everybody gets a slice of the land, then everybody will be wealthy, and it's essentially an attack on the oligarchy, right? And so this, like, I stumbled across this philosophy because Dominic Frisby wrote a book called, which I did a video about. What was the book called? The book was called Daylight Robbery. Hello, everyone. Hello. I died from COVID-19 gain of functions. Dominic Frisby wrote a book called Daylight Robbery. I read this book, very interesting book. He was talking about taxation, and he essentially was advocating for a land value tax. And he said that in Hong Kong and in other such places, they used this land value tax, and it created lots of wealth, right? So I kind of like, I've always had this, I was kind of attracted to it in the beginning. Even though obviously we're all very left-wing, got sort of socialist idea, but I just thought, do you know what? Because we do have a problem in this country. We have a problem with rich people just buying up London, and they've got a bunch of empty houses, and they're just sitting there, and nobody's living in them, right? I've got a problem where I live, because I live in a nice part of the country, and so you get a lot of people leaving London, or a lot of middle-class people that have got a job somewhere else in the country, and they come down to the West Country and they buy all the property. And so they've got their second homes, right? And it just kills the local town. Because, well, first of all, because they rent them out as holiday cottages. And then second of all, they kill the hotels. Because we used to have hotels. There used to be bed and breakfasts. I remember when I was a kid, the whole of the West Country was covered in bed and breakfast. We don't even have that anymore. It's not even a thing anymore. But that used to be like a really good small business that a person could set up. It's like, yeah, turn your house into a bed and breakfast. It's not exactly a hotel, but it's a bed and breakfast. It's a nice little thing, a small business that someone can have. That's completely gone now. I don't even think there's a single bed and breakfast in the entire country. So why? Because the hotel industry's been kind of wiped out. And why? Because people are buying second homes, and then they rent them out to holiday makers. And there's more to it than just the economic. And partly it's because people are just becoming less sociable. So they don't want to stay in a hotel where they might have to like talk to somebody else, or going to a hotel on holiday used to be, I think, a social experience. Like you go to the hotel, you stay in the hotel, you meet people like in the bar in the hotel, and you'd have a chit chat. And it was a friendly thing or whatever. It's not like that anymore. Anyway, so So I looked into the philosophy of Georgism, and I thought, well, maybe this is a solution to it. I can see the appeal, because you're going to stop landlords from buying up all the property and then forcing people to rent, essentially. And it is a monopoly. I mean, this is the oldest monopoly in the world, by the way. I mean, this is what the Normans did to us. They came over, took control of all the land, turned us all into serfs, essentially, and now we're all paying rent, right? And so it's the business model of the aristocracy. The aristocracy is just an oligarchy that owns the land, right, and makes people pay them rent, essentially. So the entire country was enslaved by the Normans and pushed down into rent slavery. And the idea is that the land value tax would end that. So, and the idea is that the land value, because you can't keep empty, unused land, because you'll get taxed, so you'll have to sell it and then give it to somebody who is going to use it, you see. Also, this is played out in the world of, NFTs and like online universes. So whatever anybody creates some like metaverse city. I know the metaverse has died now, whatever. But this was a conversation that people were having when that was a big thing, because they create these metaverse cities, and then people would just buy the land and they wouldn't develop it. They'll sit on it, right? So I understand what the guy's saying. I understand where he's coming from, but ultimately I don't agree with it. And why don't I agree with it? Because I think it's the wrong solution to the problem. And I think that the real problem is fiat currency. Because what is happening is we have the Fed, right? We have Woodrow Wilson. He established the Fed in 1913. Then we have Nixon came along, and he floated the dollar, And so now the dollar is not attached to reality. It's not attached to the gold standard. It's just a floating currency. And so it's constantly being devalued. And this benefits the rich elite, and it benefits people that already have capital, because they're printing money. It goes into the people, it goes into the banks first, and the corporations that are connected to the banks first. So they get to spend the money first, and so they get richer. But then the poor people get poorer, because the poor people can't save money anymore. Why can't you save money? Because the currency is being constantly devalued. So you can put money in the bank account, but it's not going to be worth the same in 5 years' time or 10 years' time or whatever. And you can't get a savings account. When I was a kid, you could get a savings account. You could get 10% a year. You can't do that anymore. No one will offer it to you, because the currency is being constantly devalued. So you will drive the whole of the working class, the whole population into poverty, and you'll have a bunch of rich people sitting on the top. That's what fiat currency does over time. That's what usury will do, and that's what's happening to our world, unfortunately. So one of the effects of having a fiat currency is that rich people, not even just rich people, but people, the middle classes, they will realize, I can't save my money in the bank. So where are you going to save your money? Well, you can save it in the stock market, but that's volatile. You don't know if that's going to go up or down. I mean, that's a huge problem in America, because now the entire middle class of America has got its wealth all tied up in the stock market. That never used to be a thing. It is now. And so if the stock market goes down, then everybody's screwed, right? So you can hide your money in the stock market, but that's volatile, or you can hide your money in real estate. Okay? So the point I'm driving at is that because we have a fiat currency, it means we've got inflation, right? Why do we have inflation? Fiat currency means you got paper money. It's not connected to a gold standard. If it's not connected to a gold standard, then you can just print money out of thin air. If you can print money out of thin air, then you just print more and more and more money, and then the currency gets devalued. The currency is devalued, you get inflation, because that's what inflation is. You can't buy the same stuff for your money, because the money is worth less, because there's more of it, right? I hope you all understand this. I'm assuming that you do. I hope I'm making that clear. This is the big scam. This is the world that we live in. This is, by the way, probably the greatest driving force of mass immigration in this country. You want to stop mass immigration in England? Go back to the gold standard. Because the entire British economy is built on a housing bubble, which is being propped up by mass immigration from Africa. Okay, so we don't make anything more in this country, not really. What have we got? We got real estate. That's what we got. That's what the House of Lords is invested in. The House of Lords is literally the House of Landlords. That's where the word, landlord, it's an old feudal term, isn't it? So the House of Lords is the House of Landlords. They're all invested in real estate. All the rich elites in this country are invested in real estate, and they want the value of their real estate to go up. How do you make that go up? Well, you import more and more and more and more and more and more and more foreigners into the country. So you've got more people, you've got more pressure on the housing market, the value of your house goes up. Right? So, and so we just got a massive housing bubble in this country. People think we're getting richer. We're not getting richer. We're getting, it's just insane. But the point I'm trying to make is, if you have fiat currency, then the middle class, I'm not just blaming this on the rich. It's perfectly fair and reasonable and rational for people in the middle classes and for rich people to buy real estate in order to protect their wealth, right? I'm not trying to make out that these people are evil. Obviously, I don't like it when middle class people buy their second homes in Cornwall and they prevent, the people of Cornwall from buying a house. Obviously, I don't like it, but at the same time, I understand it. Like, it's kind of not really their fault. They've got to buy a second home. What else are you going to do with your money? You can't keep it in the bank because it's being devalued, because the Fed is just printing money out of thin air. You can put it on the stock market, but that's volatile. So you buy a second home, and then the value of the home will go up. gradually, along with, you know, inflation and along with mass immigration. So I mean, that's kind of like the process of what's going on. So Georgism, I think, is the wrong solution to the problem. You've identified the correct problem, which is that rich people hoard property and they keep the property empty. They're not using it. London's full of empty property. New York City full of empty property. They've got a famous skyscraper they built in the middle of New York, which is just empty. But each floor is like worth like 100 million or 10 million or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Super luxury apartments, completely empty. It's just an investment. That's all it is. Housing has become an investment. All of this is going on because of the devaluation of the currency, and so it's perfectly fair and reasonable for the middle classes to buy real estate. So the real solution to the problem is to go back to the gold currency, or stop printing money. Essentially, stop the mass immigration, stop printing money, and then you can fix the housing market, and then you can calm everything down. Because what rich people should be doing is they should be saving their money. That's what they should be doing. And getting 10%, a comfortable 10% a year. I mean, there are like 5 points for a healthy economy. Point number 1, you want a budget surplus. Point number 2, you want a trade surplus. Point number 3, you want high interest rates. So roughly 8%, 10%. This is what we had when I was a kid, sort of. Now it's always on 1%. So why 8 or 10%? Because that's roughly the kind of interest rates that you have if you have a gold standard. Okay? And then if you've got high interest rates, you encourage saving. So now you've got a nation of savers instead of a nation of spenders. Right? And then point number 3, you want the government to have some kind of, you know, money in the treasury. And point number 5, you want people to have money in the bank, right? These are kind of like the 5 points for a stable economy. Excuse me, I'm burping. But yeah, 10% interest, money doubles every 7 years. Yeah. So nobody talks about this anymore. Everybody talks about the GDP, gross domestic product. But nobody really understands what it means. I don't even understand what it means. Not really. I mean, I vaguely understand, but you can calculate it you can just. I mean, the old joke about gross domestic product is you go into the forest, right? You pay a guy to dig a hole, and then he pays you to fill the hole back up, and then you've increased the GDP, right? It's just a really fake measurement of wealth. But the elites use this gross domestic product as a measurement of wealth because they don't want you to acknowledge that they don't want to acknowledge the fact that we're running a budget deficit and a trade deficit, and interest rates are low, and we're just piling up debt, and we're just getting poorer and poorer. The whole country's just being driven into poverty. And why? Well, multiple reasons, but one of the big reasons is fiat currency. You see. So that's Georgism, guys. I enjoy these little streams. I'm going to do more solo streams. Just rant for an hour. What's Brutus's what's Brutus's think? What does Brutus think of a wealth tax above assets of a certain value, like 10 million, 100 million? Then with this income to the government, income taxes could be. I'm not really like. Again, I don't think taxing the rich is the solution. The rich are getting richer because of fiat currency, and the poor are getting poorer because of fiat currency. You have an ongoing war between capital and labor. If labor is valuable, then people can work and then make money from their work and save that money and then buy property and buy capital, essentially. If labor is cheap, then it doesn't matter how much you work, you can't accumulate capital. And that's the situation that we're in today. Work is worth nothing. You just survive. You make your minimum wage and you just survive. You get by. So what fiat currency does is it just increases the value of capital and decreases the value of of labor, because if you're printing money out of thin air, then you're going to create a huge financial sector, right? So the stock market is totally blown out of control. Like the American stock market is not in any way connected to reality. Elon Musk has just become the world's first trillionaire. In fact, I'll find the meme. I'll find it. It's on my... Sorry about this. This will be a little bit of a pause. I wasn't actually going to talk about this, but I will scroll down my Twitter and I will find the meme and I will share it to you. And we'll talk about my friend SJJ and what he said about this meme, which I thought was hilarious. But the point... It's here. It's got to be. It's not that far down. It can't be that far down. Oh God, I hope I can find. Yes, I found it. Good. Thank God for that. Right, where am I? StreamYard. Right, remove that. I will demonstrate to you why the American stock market is completely out of control. Let's go right. Okay, can you see that? Yes. Good. Let's double click on it. Right. Sorry. So anyway, so yeah, so they've just floated SpaceX. They've just floated SpaceX. Elon Musk has become a trillionaire. So you can see in the meme, right? So where's it go? So SpaceX has got a 2.1 trillion market cap, but only 18 billion in revenues. All of these companies, right? Airbus, Boeing, GE Aerospace, they have a 1.7 trillion market cap, right? Less than SpaceX, but they've got 583 billion in revenues, which is... It's more than 10 times what SpaceX is making. It's 20 times. More than 20 times what SpaceX is making. So their market cap is less, even though in revenue they're bringing in 20 times what SpaceX is making. So SpaceX is not worth 2.1 trillion. And you don't have to be a financial genius to figure that out. I mean, that's just look at the meme. Like, this is just obvious. So what the fuck are we talking about? This is fantasy land. This is absolute fantasy land. And this is what we have. Everybody's completely delusional. So we have Elon Musk, who's just like, he's just a very good propagandist. I mean, he's very much like Steve Jobs. He's like Steve Jobs on steroids. He's managed to cultivate a myth that he's a genius. Which, I mean, he's obviously clever, but, you know. And he's a genius, he's an entrepreneur, and he's building all these great companies that are doing all these... I mean, like, okay, so he's doing some stuff, but it's all driven forward by the personality cult that is Elon Musk, right? And Twitter's just part of that. He brought Twitter, it just increased his personality cult, made him a little bit of a bad boy, you know. Got involved with Trump, increased his personality cult. Who is the CEO of GE Aerospace? I don't know. Or Boeing? I don't know. Like, none of these people are famous. Elon Musk is famous, and so this is a 2.1 trillion market cap, even though it's only got 18 billion in revenues. Like, this is clown world finances. This is not connected to reality, guys. So the entire American stock market is like, it would not be like this if we had a gold standard and if we didn't have fiat currency. I think fiat currency just maddens the mind. I mean, there are a lot of factors at play here. We live in the age of social media, so we live in the age of the clicks, and we live in the age of weaponized or capitalized attention, and Elon's very good at getting that. And so he's managed to turn that into money. I mean, there's that angle. But the basic point is this is not connected to reality. And here I asked my friend Musk, what does he say? What do you think? He says, like, he posted this meme, like Elon rockets AI. So you got this guy here, and sorry, you got the stupid guy on this side, who's like, I love Elon. And then you got the smart guy on this side who's like, I love Elon. And then you got the midwit in the middle who's like, it's overvalued, right? And I'm like, but it is overvalued because it is. And then he says, the value of something is what people are willing to pay for it. And I said, well, do you want to buy some tulips? And they didn't have a response to that, right? Which I thought was hilarious, right? So if you don't know what I'm talking about, that you missed the old Brutus. Well, I keep inviting him on, but he doesn't want to come on. I mean, you know. Boris says he did the Boris wave to quantitatively ease people and reduce the cost of labour. Yeah. Well, there you go. What a scumbag. So I said, do you want to buy some tulips? That is, of course, a reference to the tulip bubble, right? The original bubble, which came out of Amsterdam. I think it was Amsterdam. But it's the, in the Dutch Golden Age. So, I mean, if you don't know the story, guys, basically you have, what's it called? Isabel and Ferdinand, right? And they become the king and queen of, the queen and king of Spain, and they kick the Jews out. Where do the Jews go? They go to the Dutch Republic, which is at that time owned by Spain. And so they go in there, and then they start revolution. Okay, they hook up with the Protestants. So they start a revolution, and they create this pirate state, and that's the Dutch Republic. The golden age of the Dutch Republic. That is Europe's first capitalist state, right? That's the birthplace of capitalism, right there. And it's very difficult. Like, Spain tried to conquer it and crush it, but they couldn't because they would just flood all the fields, so they stopped getting the armies in. So what they did is they just created a huge navy, and they created the Dutch East India Company. So it's all there in the Dutch Republic. It's like the first international corporation taking over the world, enslaving the poor people of Indonesia, right? And yeah. Why do they call it Indonesia? Is that Indo, like Indian? I never thought about that before. India, Indonesia. Anyway, sorry, just had a brain glitch then. But they built they had the first synagogue. They also had the first stock market, right? And they had the first international corporation. And the stock market appeared, first of all, because, so you had all these trading ships going all around the world, and people, they kept crashing and people were dying, so they kind of, were gambling on it. So instead of just putting all your money on one ship, you could put your money on multiple ships, so that if one crashed, you wouldn't lose all your money. So it's, it was smart. But that kind of ballooned into the stock market that we know today, which is connected to comparations and so on and so forth, and it's kind of out of control. So now you've got corporations that are just completely out of touch with reality, and this what SJJ says here is I can't see it. He says the value of something is what people are willing to pay for it, right? And it's like, wow, this is just I've got this guy in the chat, you have to consider that money backed by gold will come with its own set of issues. Yeah, well, you have to, of course, everything's got issues. But the point is, in the past, people would understand that the value was in the raw elements, right? So it's not just gold, but it's gold, it's silver, it's copper, it's iron, it's the trees, it's the oil, it's the water, it's Mother Nature. The wealth is in Mother Nature. That's the beginning of where the wealth is. It's in Mother Nature. And then men come along and they work on Mother Nature and they craft Mother Nature and they turn the tree into a house. And they turn the gold into a statue or whatever. And so men generate wealth by taking the wealth of Mother Nature and transforming it. And then men will sell the different things that they've made to each other in the marketplace. And then they use gold to help with that transaction process. But the gold is in itself, it has an intrinsic wealth. It's not just paper. You can use gold to buy things and sell things, but it has an intrinsic value. You see, so it's rooted in this idea that the wealth is coming from Mother Nature. And then SJJ comes along. I'm not having a dig at SJJ, by the way. I like the guy, but it's just he's got the wrong idea. And he says, well, the value of something is what it's worth in the marketplace, which is a very modern idea. And what you've done is you've gotten rid of the value of craftsmanship. So now the craftsman is no longer valued. The guy that's making the stuff is no longer valued. All that's valuable is the point of sale. So it's a merchant mentality. And there's nothing really wrong with merchants, because you need people that buy things and sell things and run shops and trade, right? The spice, you got the spice must flow, right? But in my opinion, a healthy civilization is a civilization that's creative, and a civilization that values the arts and crafts, and a civilization that is rooted in the generative aspect of wealth, the industry aspect of wealth, right? This is another point which I've been banging on about recently. I had this big epiphany because there's so many doomers on the internet and everyone's depressed. I stopped, like, for 2 months. I was playing Cyberpunk 2077 and I felt like I was on heroin. I was just like absorbed in this computer game world, and I wasn't creating anything, didn't make any videos. And then all of a sudden I start making videos again, and all of a sudden it was like my brain is all of a sudden I'm alive again. I'm snapped out of my zombie state. And now my brain's on fire, and I'm thinking, I'm going to make this. So it was just really, like, it was a wake up call for me on a personal level. It's just like, like when you're thinking about creating something, your brain's running twice as fast, and your testosterone feels higher, and you feel more energized, and you feel more positive. But if you're just a consumer, and you just go to work, and then you come home and you play a video game, and then go to sleep, and you're not building anything and you're not making anything, you kind of just feel monged out, right? And so why is this? Well, it's because creativity is sexual. And so obviously sex is fun, right? But sex is for the creation of children. But it's a driving force of mankind. So if you're not creating anything, you're sterile. You're just a consumer. That's the problem with consumerism. That's what the elites have created. They've created an entire generation of consumers. People these days, they don't make their own cars. They don't make their own TVs. They don't build their own houses. Everybody's disempowered. Everybody just works, gets their money. Their money's fake, and then they go to the supermarket and they buy food that was grown by somebody else, and they buy clothes that was made by somebody else, and they buy technology that was made by somebody else, and nobody's able to make their own things. So you're disempowered. You've lost the ability to make your own stuff and fix your own stuff. You're dependent on the system, but you've also lost the generative spirit, essentially, the sexual spirit. And so you're sterile. You've been sterilized. Consumers are sterilized. And sex becomes consumerism as well, because then sex just becomes pornography, essentially, and something to enjoy. It's not for the creation of children. So our entire nation is a consumer nation, and it's a sterile nation because it's a consumer nation, right? Because we don't make anything anymore, because of usury, because they're putting money out of thin air. And so, we've got a huge financial sector in the city of London, which is probably dying now, but whatever. That's the only thing that's keeping the lights on, and that's dying. And all the factories got sold off, and what have you, and Rolls-Royce is owned by BMW now, and we don't make anything. We're not a great industrial nation anymore. Everything's made in China. So the Chinese are getting wealthier and wealthier, and the Anglosphere and the Western nations as a whole, well, I guess Germany still makes something, but the Anglosphere in particular has just had the life sucked out of it. It's just buying stuff that's made in China, and so we've become sterile, right? It's the same thing. It's the same psychology. You don't have the mindset of a builder. You don't have the mindset of somebody that creates. Now you've got the mindset of somebody that works and buys stuff. And if you do have inspiration to do business, where does your inspiration go? Does it go into creating something? Does anybody ever think, oh, I'm going to start a business making cars or clothes or what? No, nobody thinks that. They do what SJJ is doing, which is you trade on the stock market and you buy a totally overvalued Tesla stock, right? And I'm not having a dig on SJJ. I mean, this is part of the joke, because I am the midwit. There's me in the middle, midwit, right? Because SJJ's got £200,000 in his bank account that he's made through trading overvalued stock. And so here I am sitting with all of my principles and all of my philosophy and my knowledge and understanding that gold is the real money. But I'm not making any money. SJJ, on the other hand, is just like, yeah, whatever. Green line goes up, right? And he's making lots of money, and that's part of the scam, isn't it? It's like, even if, like, it's a scam, but if you don't get on board with the scam, you're going to be poor, and everybody else is going to make piles of cash. And you'll just be sitting there with your morals and your ethics, and you'll just be like, fuck, man, like, this is, Anyway, so that's kind of the system. We've been sterilized. We are sterile consumers. We are sterile consumers. And I'd rather look at Charlie Kirk than look at this fucking picture. It's just starting to do my head in. Let me just remove that. And let's go back and look at... let's go back to this picture, because I just prefer it. Where was it? Yeah, let's go back to that. Oh, that was better. So, and then you get this guy rebelling against it. Right? He's in jail now, but he's just fucking had enough. So he goes out, goes to Greg's, gets something to eat, and throws the rock at the police because he's fed up. Why? Because of consumerism. Because he can't buy a house. Right? Can't buy a house. Can't get his life started. The value of labor has been pushed down because of because of fiat currency. Because people with capital, their wealth is increasing. The wealth of the boomers is increasing. This is the boomer problem. This is why people hate boomers. Fiat currency. The boomers have got the real estate, and they want the value of their real estate to go up. And so they vote for mass immigration. And you can deny it, but they do. They might not consciously be voting for it, but they are. Because they're not voting against it. They didn't vote for reform, did they? In the last general election, which would have been the anti-immigration vote. So what are they voting for? They're voting to keep their cushy deal. Like you can blame the Jews for everything, but it's not really the Jews' fault. It's white people. It's boomers and it's pensioners. So anyway, that's my ramble on George. So like I say, Henry George, he wrote this book. It's called what is it? Progress and Poverty, 1879. Comes out, and he advocates for a land value tax. But I reject this. I reject this idea because it's the wrong solution to the problem. Now, of course, in his time, they didn't have the fiat currency. So, I mean, I don't know. To be honest with you, I haven't read the book, and it's not a strong argument, but I did start listening to it. I listened to like an hour of the audiobook, and it's got that vibe. It's got that typical left-wing utopian vibe of, oh, if we just get the tax policy right, then everyone will be rich and wealthy. And it's like, not so sure about that, mate. So this is a progressive ideology, and progressivism is a philosophy that sprung up in America at the end of the 19th century, and it sprung up in reaction to industrialization. and it has its philosophical, well, there are many roots to its philosophical ideas, but a lot of it can be traced back to the Fabian Society and social democracy and democratic socialism and all of this. And so what did the progressive era want? Well, essentially, it was a rejection of classical liberalism. So America was built on classical liberal principles. And the idea being that you want a small government. And so what you have is Thomas Paine, and he writes Common Sense. I recommend that everybody reads it. It's a great little pamphlet. And in Thomas Paine's Common Sense, this is actually the key pamphlet, by the way, which turned the American Revolutionary War into a revolutionary war, because before that it was just a protest, and some people wanted to reconcile with the British government, but then they read Common Sense and they thought, nah, stuff it, let's create our own country. So incredibly influential piece of paper. And what does Thomas Paine say in this? Well, he says, he believes in the goodness of mankind. This is why I'm attracted to classical liberalism, because it seems to me like you've got Thomas Hobbes on the one hand, who thinks that people are bad, innately bad, and so he thinks the state of nature is nasty, brutish, and short. This is what he advocates for in his book Leviathan. And so Thomas Hobbes advocates for a tyranny, right? Thomas Hobbes is, of course, this old English philosopher, right? He advocates for a tyranny. He advocates for a king, and he says, we've got to have a king, we've got to have government, otherwise people will just be killing each other, and it's just going to be violence and disaster and blah, blah, blah. So why does he think all these things? Because he has a bad view of human nature. He thinks human beings are kind of like innately bad. I just repeated myself, but and so they need a king. They need a king. They need a government. They need a strong government to be told what to do because they're too stupid. It's a very arrogant, in my opinion, very arrogant point of view. I prefer the point of view that human beings are innately good, and I think the point of view, this point of view is fundamentally in line with vitalism. And vitalism is the idea that strength is good, and that what makes you stronger is good, and what makes you weaker is bad. And I think that a lot of people, when they think of vitalism, they think of Conan the Barbarian or Genghis Khan or whatever, but these are actually anti-civilizational forces. If you really think about vitalism, what you end up with is the family unit. Because to be vital is to pass on the life force to the younger generation, which means you have sex with a woman, and then you have babies, and then you raise the babies. Okay? So in my opinion, vitalism leads straight into family values. And family values are good because they promote strength, and because everybody wants their children to be healthy. Right? Nobody wants their son to be gay, and nobody wants their daughter to be a whore. And nobody wants their son or daughter to be murdered by an African. Right? So family values are the absolute backbone of civilization. The family is the backbone of civilization. And in my mind, Thomas Paine, when he's talking about common sense, and he's talking about the state of nature, and he's talking about what he's basically saying is people are okay by themselves in the state of nature. They're okay. He talks about the difference between society and government. He says, like, if you get a group of people and they're living together in a land like nearby each other, they'll help each other naturally, and they don't need laws to tell, to be enforced. It will just be based on natural law. Like, you want to work with your neighbor. It's in your interests to have a friendly relationship with your neighbor so that you can trade and help each other, because human beings need each other. It's very difficult for a human being to live by themselves in the forest. So you need other people. And so in a natural way, like, you want to feed your children, right? So in a natural way, you're going to work with your neighbors and you're going to be a good person. So the state of nature creates society. This is what Thomas Paine meant. He creates something called society. And society is just human beings helping each other. But the argument that Thomas Paine made in Common Sense is that when you get a lot of human beings together, then all of a sudden you get problems, because bad actors can come involved. So then you need a government. And so the government, from his point of view, is a necessary evil which is imposed upon a good society. And you should want that government to be as small as possible, because human beings are by their nature good, and by their very nature they want to help each other. So that's the foundation of America, of the American Constitution. That's what classical liberalism is all about. That's what I believe in, and I believe it was racial, because it was racial. I mean, the Americans had slaves, right? And I believe, I mean, you have Jackson doing the Trail of Tears and kicking all the Indians out. I mean, you could be very, very racial and be a classical liberal. Most of them were. But of course, the problem is the left wings, they come in, they've taken this term liberal and they've stolen it, right? And twisted it and perverted it. And now everybody's got AIDS, everybody's got cancer, and they've been turned against their own culture. So they're like, oh, I hate the liberals. And it's like, well, your country was built on liberalism. And you've just been mind tricked by the left into hating the ideology that created your country. And you've fallen for it. That's what's going on. But anyway, the point I was making, I was talking about Georgism. I was just saying Georgism is a progressive ideology. And progressivism is the rejection of classical liberalism. So it's the rejection of what America was founded on. And essentially it's the idea that we don't want a small government. We want a big government, basically. We want a big government. We need a big government, and we need more government intervention, and this is necessary for people to be happy. And so you move away from indirect taxation, which is, did I talk about that already? I can't remember. Did I go on that tangent? But you move away from indirect taxation, which is part of the American Constitution, to direct taxation, which is being advocated by Georgism and by the progressives. Do you see what I mean? Does that all make sense? I hope I'm making sense. I hope I'm making sense, guys. Tell me in the chat if I'm making sense. It makes sense to me. But the point is, in the American Constitution, because they're classical liberals and because they believe in a state of nature and because they believe that human beings are innately good, it means they don't want too much government. They kind of want to just be left alone, right? And so they want a small government. So how do you ensure that you have a small government? Well, I'll tell you, you have indirect taxation, which means you have VAT, basically, and you have tariffs. Right? And so if you have VAT and you have tariffs, then if people don't want to, like, if the government raises the taxes too much, then people just stop buying stuff, essentially. And they'll save their money. And they'll wait until the government lowers the taxes again. So if the only form of taxation that you have is indirect taxation, you will essentially force the government to be small. That's the point. You will force the government to be small. And then you have a small limited government. And that's what America was founded on. It worked for some time. But to be fair to the progressives, to be fair to them, progressivism was, as I say, a reaction to the industrialization of America. And so it's a reaction to technology. And so technology kind of marched in and just destroyed the American dream, I suppose. Because when America was founded, it was just a bunch of farmers. So you didn't need the government to intervene into industry. But with the rise of the Industrial Revolution, now you've got all this crazy technology and you've got these factories, and children are working in these factories and they're getting their fingers cut off, right? And men are working in these factories and they're getting like chemical burns and they're getting like toxic gases and they're getting like all this crazy stuff. They're getting injured and kind of enslaved. And then, of course, in addition to this, industrialization, because it's, I forget that economic term. I'm forgetting it, economy of scale. Because there's an economy of scale, this is what Adam Smith talks about in his Wealth of Nations. He talks about like making nails and stuff. Like if one person's making nails, they can make 10 a day, right, or whatever. But if you get a group of men making nails, then you can make hundreds and hundreds of nails every day. If you just break down the process of production and you give one person one individual job, right? So if you get rid of the craftsmanship and you make people just do small, tiny little jobs instead of building the whole thing from beginning to end, then you can make more. And that's what the factory model is. The factory model is rejection of craftsmanship, right? But the problem with this is, I mean, you make more, so there's more stuff, but you also disempower the craftsman because now he can't compete with the factory, and he also just loses the ability to create by himself because now he's just a drone in a factory. And the factory might be dangerous because it's got a bunch of crazy like machines in it that chop your fingers off. So the progressive, but you have to industrialize at the same time. This is the vice, the iron hard vice of technology. This is why I'm a Luddite at the end of the day. Like, I mean, we were talking about this on the stream last night, but like once you're on the the technology is just an arms race. And once you're on it, you can't get off, because if you don't develop the technology, then the other country will. Like, you can live in your nice fantasy land, Amish, or we reject electricity because it's demoniac. Yeah, I agree. It is bad. But what are you going to do? You switch off all the electricity, you're just going to get conquered by China. And then they'll make you use electricity. So you don't have a choice. The entire world is being dragged along on an insane technological arms race, which is just leading us to artificial intelligence and digital slavery. But anyway, the progressive era was a reaction to the industrialization of America. So the idea being, you've got these oligarchs who sprung up, they've got these big companies. We need to break them up. We need to protect the people. So you have the rejection of classical liberalism, the rejection of the Constitution of the American, and replace the embracing of big government. Right? Big government. Because you need big government to control the oligarchs. Right? That is the progressive era, my dear friends. I hope that you understand. I hope this is making sense. Nobody in the chat is telling me that this makes sense, but it makes sense to me. So I hope that you're following this. And so that's what it's all about. And then so you got, and then Woodrow Wilson comes along. And so of course, for the big government, you got to pay for the big government. So what do you want? You want direct taxation. So Woodrow Wilson comes along, introduces the Fed, and introduces income tax. And income tax is direct taxation. So direct taxation means you're taxing the person directly. You're not taxing the things that they buy. You're taxing the person themselves. And I mean, in my opinion, once you have direct taxation, like once the government is able to tax you directly, they will tax you directly, and they will take half of what you own, which is exactly what we're doing. Like half of the wealth that you make in your life goes to the government, and that's it, guys. And you got to pay for that civil servant. You got to pay for Andy Burnham, and I don't know how many secretaries he's got. And you got to pay for the welfare state. You got to pay for it. And if you don't pay for it, you go to prison, right? That's direct taxation. Once you give the power to the government to tax you directly, they're going to do it. They're going to do it. And they're going to create a big government. So that's what the progressive era gave us. Now, arguably, none of this was necessary. I think there was a problem, and the problem was industrialization. The problem was the rise of the factories. And, I think the quest for the 8-hour work week was good. And I think the quest for health and safety was good. Like, we take it for granted now, but I think it's gone too far. But the idea that, you know, you don't want to get your fingers chopped off when you're working in a factory is not a bad thing. So I think I mean, you know my opinion, guys. I am a small business capitalist. So I think we could have kept the classical liberalism, and we could have embraced small business capitalism, and we could have dealt with the problem of the oligarchs without creating a big government. Essentially, that's what I think. But we didn't do that. America embraced progressivism, and so they embraced the idea that the government will lift people up. It's not exactly socialism. Socialism was more of a European thing, and that came to America later. But it's progressivism, right? It's the government's job to educate people. And we're going to tax you, and we're going to build schools. Then we're going to educate you so you can work in the factories, right? So you have Teddy Roosevelt is a progressive president, and then you have Woodrow Wilson. And Woodrow Wilson obviously brought America into the First World War, even though Americans didn't want to be involved in it. But he had the 14 points, and he created. I mean, he was hanging out with Eddie Bernays, the Jew, right? And he created the League of Nations, right? And then that fell to pieces, and then afterwards we have the United Nations. So we live in the age of Wilsonian idealism. Okay? Have you guys stopped chatting, or is it just not loading on StreamYard? Anyway, I hope you guys are listening. I don't know if you guys are listening or not. But anyway, we live in the age of Wilsonian idealism. You're right, mate. And so what is Wilsonian idealism? Well, it's progressivism internationally, right? It's progressivism that's been transformed into an international political idea, right? Yeah, okay. You're listening. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, in politics, you've got two ideas. In international politics, you've got political realism and you've got political idealism. So political realism is Malthusianism. So it's like, we are realistic. We are just interested in the money and the resources and how we're going to get them. And we don't care about human rights, and we don't care about morality. It's not about that. It's just about reality, right? I'm a political realist. Political idealists, they believe in, the rainbow. We're going to dance under the rainbow. We love multiculturalism, and we love, duty, virtue, honor, etc., 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 right? All of this. That's idealism. You have an idealistic view of the world. You want to build a better world, a happy world, and you're gonna pursue international politics to get this. So Woodrow Wilson, the president of America, who came in 1913, who brought America into the Second World War, the guy who created the Fed, the guy who created income tax, the progressive president of America, the democratic progressive president of America, he believed in idealism. He was an idealist. And he talked about creating a new world order. And we live in the new world order. The old world order is the British Empire. The new world order is the American Empire. And the American Empire is the empire of the United Nations, the League of Nations, right? So it's international government. It's big government. So it's the progressive idea of big government taken to the international stage, essentially. It's the idea that we can have world peace through democracy. It's the idea that we can make the whole world like America. We can make the whole world like a progressive America. And that's the world in which we live now. Wilsonian idealism is the dominant political ideology of this world. It's won. It defeated communism. It defeated the British Empire. I mean, there are a few holdouts. So China hasn't embraced democracy yet. But pretty much everybody in the world believes in universal suffrage. That's another progressive ideal, that women should vote. Every government in the world runs an education system. That's another progressive ideal, that the government should pay for schools for kids, right? Every government in the world is signed up to the United Nations. Every government in the world takes for granted that there should be these big international organizations like the International Monetary Fund or whatever. And so that's the world in which we live, guys. Wilsonian idealism triumphed. And well, that's the 1 hour mark. So anyway, I mean, there you go. So that's what Georgism's all about. That's what Andy Burnham's kind of all about. I don't know if he's going to introduce a land value tax, but I guess what I'm trying to say is the idea of Georgism is you have a land value tax, which basically just means you tax the land. They try and pretend it's something different, something weird. But it's not. It's just, you're just taxing the land, right? But he wants direct taxation. Tax the land to stop landlords from hoarding the land. Excuse me. And I don't know if he's going to implement it or not. But it's a progressive idea. And so I've been thinking about that a lot today. And I've also been thinking about, because, I mean, you guys know I'm writing this book. 5'9" in his platform shoes. You guys know I've been writing this book. So I'm trying to create an English ethnic nationalism. I think the Germanic nationalism will fail. I think it's leading English people up the wrong path. And the managerial revolution. Yeah, well, Manchester is like, they invented skyscrapers, didn't they? Yeah, I could do a whole video on that, isn't it? Yeah, get into that. But so I'm trying to write this book, and I'm fed up with the Germanic nationalism. I think we need to reject it. I think we need an English ethnic nationalism. My dream, I'm going to keep telling you my dream in my videos now, because nobody understands my dream. So let me make it really clear. We create an English ethnic nationalism. We take over the country. And then we create an English lobby, and we go to America. We kick the Jews out of Washington, and we take control of our American colony. It can easily be done, by the way, because American politicians are prostitutes. And if you pay them, they'll do it, right? So if we pay them to work in the interests of their country instead of against it, they'll just follow, right? So we get an English lobby. We burst into Washington, we save America, and then we can save the rest of the Anglosphere, and then we can save Europe, and then we can make a peace deal with Russia, and we can save the white race. That is my master plan. That is the master plan of English ethnic nationalism. But in order to follow this plan through, we're going to have to reject Germanic ethnic nationalism, which is what has destroyed this country, was destroyed. It's AIDS. Okay, guys, you've got AIDS, you've got cancer. What does cancer do? It eats your own body. What does AIDS mean? It means the white blood cells attack the body. So we have a nationalism in this country which is supposed to be protecting the English people, but instead of protecting the English people, it's attacking the foundations on which this country is built. So it attacks Churchill, it attacks the British Empire, it attacks imperialism, it attacks capitalism, and it attacks classical liberalism. And it attacks John Locke, and it rips up all the foundations on which this country is built and all the foundations on which America is built in the name of defending this country. And then the people are surprised that people don't rally behind it. It's cancer. You've got AIDS. You've got AIDS. Morgoth has got AIDS. Millennial Woes has got AIDS. Sargon of Akkad has got AIDS. They've all got AIDS. It's a brain disease. It's a slippery slope. You start off, you hate Churchill, and then I'll tell you the slippery slope, right? I'll tell you the slippery slope right now, because next time you have a debate with a Nazi on the internet, you can get this very easily. So it starts off, you're talking to a Nazi on the internet, and they're like, I love Adolf Hitler, and I hate Churchill, he destroyed everything. And you're like, okay, why does he love Adolf Hitler? Because Adolf Hitler fought against the Jews, Adolf Hitler defended the white race, and Adolf Hitler was a fascist. And by the way, I'm not squeamish about fascism. This country needs a military dictatorship for sure. God Almighty, give me the power. I would sort this country out in a year, right? But I only advocate for a temporary dictatorship and then a return to classical liberalism. That's the difference. You don't want to keep that kind of power on a long-term basis. But anyway, so they love Hitler because he fought the Jews. They love Hitler because he defended the white race. They love Hitler because he rejected democracy. Okay, fine. So you point out to him, but then once the conversation turns, once you point out to him that Hitler invaded Austria, right, and once you start talking about the Treaty of Versailles, the Nazi will automatically say, well, the Treaty of Versailles was unfair. Because, when Hitler invaded Austria, he broke Article 80 of the Treaty of Versailles, right? The Nazi will say, well, the Treaty of Versailles was unfair. And you say, well, why? Why was the Treaty of Versailles unfair? And they say, well, Britain started the war. Britain started the First World War. Germany is good. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. Now we're not even defending Adolf Hitler. Now you're just defending Germany. You're just a German nationalist. That's all you are. And so now it's just an attack on the British Empire and British imperialism and British military interests, you see. So this is the slippery slope. This is what I'm trying to say to you guys. Nobody seems to understand. But you start off by hating Churchill, and then all of a sudden you're attacking imperialism, you're attacking capitalism, you attack classical liberalism, and it's all getting ripped aside and pushed aside by German nationalism. And the German nationalists, they don't like the British Empire. They don't like the capitalism. Do you see what I mean? They don't like it. They don't like English ideas. And so now you have an entire generation of people reading Julius Evola and talking about Germanic idealism and how great it is and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, the British people are not going to rally behind that. That's the slippery slope. So we need an English ethnic nationalism. How does that work? Well, in order to create an English ethnic nationalism, you're going to have to defend Churchill. So what's my defense? And you'll say, well, how can you defend Churchill? He got us into the war. And I say, well, I'm not even going to bother denying that. Churchill absolutely got us into the war. Okay, because yes, Hitler broke the Treaty of Versailles. By the way, the Nazi defense of Hitler is completely retarded. Like, they're pretending that he's some kind of peaceful person. I mean, this is just a joke. He wrote Mein Kampf. He openly wanted to invade Russia and genocide the Slavic people. But that's not even like, I'm not even going to, don't worry about that. I am not going to bother pretending that Churchill didn't get us into the war. He absolutely got us into the war. He absolutely got us into the war. So how do you defend that, Brutus? How do you defend that? Well, I defend it by saying it was in our military interest to do so. Churchill was just defending the balance of power in Europe, and it was not in our military interests to have a gigantic Germanic empire sitting on our doorstep, because it's only going to be a matter of time until that gigantic Germanic empire turns around and conquers us. And even if Hitler did want peace with us, okay, maybe he did, but will the person that comes after him want that? And the person that comes after him? So that's it. That's the ultimate defense. And in response to that, people will say, but we lost the empire. And there's the rub. Because Churchill didn't lose the empire. Attlee did. Attlee gave it away. Right? And this is how I circle this whole thing back to Andy Burnham. Because what we have in this country is an irrational hatred of Churchill, which has bled into an irrational hatred of the Tory party, which has created an internet right that hates the Tory party and voted for the Labour Party, because they did. 0 seats, 0 seats, 0 seats. The 0 seats meme is a vote for the Labour Party. That's what it is. I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but that's the truth. So Sargon of Akkad got Keir Starmer elected. AA got Keir Starmer elected. Morgoth got Keir Starmer elected. That's just the truth. And you'll say, but the Tories, they're shit. Yeah, they are shit. I would put them all on trial for treason, to be honest with you. They hanged a lot of them. But the real source, the real force of destruction in this country is the Labour Party. They are the ones that gave the empire away. They are the ones that invited all the immigrants into the country. They, Tony Blair, pushed forward devolution. Chopped up our country. They have destroyed this country. And does the Tory party? Yes, they destroy it, but they destroy it slowly. The Labour Party destroys it quickly, and the Tory Party destroys it slowly. And what we have in this country is an internet right which is run by Northerners. It's dominated by the Northerners, and the Northerners are just blaming the Tories for everything, and they're blaming people that vote for the Tory party for everything. But it is perfectly fair and rational for people in the South to vote for the Tory party to keep Labour out. And I know farmers that were just terrified because people were saying, oh, they're going to vote for reform, they're going to split the vote, and Labour will come in. And they were right to be, because Labour did come in and they screwed the farmers straight away. So do you think those farmers, do you think they love the Tory party? No, they hate them. Everybody hates the Tories. People down south hate the Tories. But they've got us in their grip because we're terrified of Labour. And it's fair and reasonable for us to be terrified of Labour. So how do you save England then? Well, I'll tell you how you save England. You destroy the Labour Party. Hello, is anybody listening? You destroy the Labour Party. Who has the ability to destroy the Labour Party? The North. The men of the North. They could have voted for UKIP in 2015. They didn't. They could have voted for the Brexit Party. They could have voted for reform. They didn't. They voted for more Pakistani grooming gangs. They voted for the party that gave them Pakistani grooming gangs. The men of the North are responsible for the destruction of this country. And yet you go on the internet, and what do you see? Oh, I'm a based northerner. I'm from the north. I'm based. No, you're not based. You're a fucking retard. You keep voting for the Labour Party and putting them into power. If you wiped out Labour, then we could have two centre-right parties running the country, and then we could dig ourselves out of this mess. But I don't know. You're not going to kill the Tory party in the South. I don't know what's going to happen in the next election because everything's up in the air now because of reform. So who knows? But the Tories may bounce back and reform might implode. I don't know. But whatever the case, regardless of what happens with reform or with the Tory party, the primary enemy in this country is the Labour Party. You must destroy the Labour Party. But instead of pushing for the destruction of the Labour Party, our leaders, Sargon, the academic agent, Morgoth, Connor Tomlinson, who else? I don't know. They're all thumping on the internet. Oh, destroy the Tories. Why? Because you hate Churchill, and that bleeds into a hatred of the Tory party. And who hates Churchill? A bunch of Northerners. And why do they hate Churchill? Because they hate the South. They hate the British Empire. They're all socialists. They hate the British Empire. They hate the Tories. They hate capitalism. And so they hate Churchill. And so they have this whole idea. Oh, the empire was not in our interests, and blah 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 blah. And so they're pushing forward this blame everything on the Tories narrative. And I'm stuck here on the internet I hate the Tories. What are you talking about? You think I don't hate the Tories? I hate the Tories. But Labour's worse. That's the real force of destruction in this country. So you should wipe them out. What this country really needs this is what I was thinking about while I was having my walk on the beach, is is a economically left-wing but socially right-wing party that can take the North. I mean, really, it should be the what are they called? The SDB, the social. What the hell? What's the Gang of Four? Let me look this up. Gang of Four. No, not the English rock band. God. Oh, I thought they were the Gang of Four. Labour. SDP. Yeah, there you go. The SDP. The Gang of Four was a breakaway group of 4 Labour politicians who founded the Social Democratic Party. Okay, so the SDP believes in social democracy, hence the title, the Social Democratic Party. I don't know exactly why. Anyway, I don't want to get into that. But yeah, they should take the North, but they've got no presence on the internet. Nobody seems to know who they are, and it's just, you know, apparently the whole party's a muddle. So you've got a Thatcherite Reform Party trying to take the North, which is not going to happen because they hate Thatcherite economics, and you've got essentially Restore, which is again another secondary Thatcherite, economically Thatcherite party trying to take the North. And it's like, well, they're not going to vote for it. And I am a classical liberal, as you've just seen from watching this whole video. I believe in classical liberalism, so I'm essentially, I don't really believe in Thatcherism because I'm a protectionist, and Thatcher sold off all of our flipping companies to foreigners, so she was a bit of a disaster. But whatever, I'm more closely aligned with her than I am with the socialists. But I don't know, like, what's more important, mass immigration or economics? Well, mass immigration is the real problem. Like the Islamification of this country is the real problem. So I would be perfectly willing and happy to, you know, vote for, well, I wouldn't do it because I live in the South, but I think the solution is, in the North, somebody needs to create a political party that is economically left-wing. So you embrace social democracy, you embrace socialism, essentially, and you get elected in the North, and you smash Labour. You could call it old Labour. And the Northerners would vote for it. And that's how you defeat Andy Burnham. Right? I'm sorry if what I'm saying upsets you with the defense of Churchill and defense of Tory party. You've got to start thinking about these things in a rational manner and stop getting so emotional. You know, like with this comment in the chat section, Churchill was drunk. Yeah. Adolf Hitler was on meth. Like, this is it's just a slur. Every time anybody ever talks about Churchill, he was fat and he was drunk and he smoked a cigar. Get a grip, mate. Get a grip. Hitler was on meth. He didn't even get married. Right? Hitler's great grandfather was Jewish. Look it up. The CIA did a report on it. Like, his grandmother was she was working for a Jew, and then she stopped working for the Jew at the age of 14. She was pregnant, and then that Jew gave her money to help raise the child. So what do you think happened there then? This is not a secret. So, like, they're deeply flawed people. They're both. Our leaders are all deeply flawed people. I keep getting strawmanned by these people. They're like, oh, you're worshipping. I don't worship anybody. They're all morons. Like, what do you think? Every single great leader is deeply flawed. And they make mistakes. And they get some things right and they get some things wrong. It's childish to idolize political leaders. It's a fucking shit show. The whole world is an ongoing shit show. You just got to try and muddle through it as best you can. But the country's not going to rally behind Adolf Hitler, I'll tell you that. That's the truth. You know, so anyway, that's my final conclusion of this video. When it comes to Andy, if you want to save this country, you've got to understand that the secret to saving England is not to destroy the Tory party, it's to destroy the Labour Party. And the best thing that can destroy the Labour Party would be an economically left-wing party in the north. Take the northern vote, right? The Northerners, they love social. I'm not a socialist, so it pains me to say it, but they love socialism. They want socialism. They want the welfare state. They want. I mean, you've got how many people voted for Jeremy Corbyn in the North? Like, they got a lot of votes. And why do they vote for Jeremy Corbyn? Because Jeremy Corbyn is old Labour. What you got to understand? There's old Labour and there's new Labour. Tony Blair created New Labour. How did he create New Labour? He got rid of Clause 4 of the Labour Manifesto. So, Clause 4 calls for the nationalisation of the industries. This is socialism. This is democratic socialism. Old Labour is a democratic socialist party, which means they want socialism, but they don't want it through violent revolution. They want it through democracy. What is socialism? Socialism means the government owns the means of production. That means the government owns the factories. Right? So you have the nationalization of the factories. This is what we had in the 70s or what have you. So that's what old Labour represents. Of course, it's a total disaster. I mean, maybe it was just mismanaged, but I mean, the problem is the unions come in and then they just, like, I mean, you can watch documentaries about it, like the destruction of the automobile industry in this country was because of socialism, was because of the Labour Party, because they nationalised it all, and then and instead of making cars, it's just trade unions arguing with the managers. Like, the managers, they didn't have time to make cars or to run the business. They were spending all of their time arguing with the trade unions about wages. That's what socialism creates. So I don't really agree with it, but then the Thatcherite solution of selling all the companies to Indians or whatever or to the Germans, that's not a better solution, is it? So anyway, but the point being, what was I trying to say? So old Labour is socialist, and this is called democrat. You have to understand there's a split. You've got democratic socialism and you've got social democracy. Let me just... Sorry. Hang on, I'm getting my... Hang on a second. I'm having a brain... Yes. You got social democracy and you got democratic socialism. So it's a little bit confusing. I did a video about this a while ago, and like a couple of years ago, and then I forgot the distinction. So I'm coming back to it now. So what is democratic socialism? It's socialism through democratic means. And socialism means that you want the government to own the means of production. So you nationalize the industries. That's the old Labour. Tony Blair got rid of that because he got rid of Clause 4, and he followed social democracy. What is social democracy? Social democracy is the idea that capitalism is okay, but you need to moderate it. So social democracy, basically social democracy advocates for the welfare state. So we have a social democracy. Now, we live in an age of social... Thatcherism is social democratic-ism. I'm trying to say that, right? That's what social democracy is. The Fabian Society promotes both social democracy and democratic socialism. And the Fabian Society created the Labour Party, and the Labour Party appears to swing between social democracy and democratic socialism. Jeremy Corbyn follows democratic socialism. He wants to return to the old Labour and the nationalisation of the industries and etc., etc. So I don't know. I mean, how do you take the North? I mean, I reckon you probably don't need the democratic socialism, but you have to be socialist. You have to have social democracy. You have to support the welfare state, essentially. People in the North are not going to vote for you if you're a classical liberal like me and you're talking about getting rid of pensions and etc., etc., they're not going to vote for you. So that's it. So you take the North. You create that. You create an economically left-wing party. You take the North. You save the country. That should be the focus for nationalists. Stop blame everything on the Tories and Churchill and capitalism and the South. The people of the South are kept hostage. We don't have a choice. They're going to vote for the Tory party to keep Labour out, and it's perfectly reasonable and rational for them to do so. They're not stupid. They're making the same decision. But in the North, you're never going to get the Tory party elected because everybody hates Thatcher. So you people up north have an opportunity to vote for a socially conservative party that's going to change and save the country. That's where the opportunity is. The opportunity is in the North. You don't hear people talking about this. Like, all these political commentators are all like, which party is going to win? They never talk about it in terms of North and South, but they should do, because that's the real division. Like, it makes a fundamental difference. What part of the country do you live in? It makes a fundamental difference as to which party you're going to vote for. And yet, political commentators always just give it like a blanket statement. Oh, they ignore this. They ignore the geography of the situation. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, everybody gets upset by the. I know Churchill's war. I know that Churchill was part of the focus group. I know that his father was Randolph Churchill and that he was in with the Jews. I know that Churchill got elected in Manchester North, and there was a Jewish community there. I know that Churchill defended Zionism. He was a Zionist. I know all these things. He was in bed with the Jews. I've never denied this. All I'm saying is Hitler was in bed with the Jews too. It's just, but Nazis will never admit that, will they? They'll always ignore Hitler's Jewish doctor and his Jewish driver and the Jews that fought for Hitler and Hitler's Jewish grandfather, and they'll always ignore that. They'll always ignore Hitler, Hitler's Zionism, right? So when it comes to Churchill and the Jews, he just saw the Jews as part and parcel of the British Empire. That's all. They were the money lenders of the British Empire, and he was mistaken to think that they were his friends. Basically, that's the narrative. It's a stab in the back, basically. We thought the Americans were our friends, but they stabbed us in the back. We thought the Jews were our friends, but they stabbed us in the back. But the majority of the blame goes to the Labour Party. Attlee gave the empire away, and Attlee created the NHS, and Attlee pushed forward the welfare state, and that's it. The Labour Party is the enemy. But people are so filled with emotion and rage and anger, frothing at the mouth. Oh, I hate Churchill. I hate him. I hate him. It's like, I'm just saying, like, take a step back and think about this, guys. Whenever you see that kind of foaming out the mouth emotionalism, you got to think, wait a minute, are you thinking about this rationally, mate? Because I don't have a foaming at the mouth hatred of Hitler. I just consider him to be a historical figure. And I'm not defending Churchill like it's a personality cult, like the Nazis do. The Nazis they'll never admit that Hitler did anything wrong, ever. They're literally following through with a socialist style personality cult. I mean, that's what it is. Write a song about it, yeah. It's a personality cult. It's no different to Stalin. Stalin used to do the Roman salute, don't you? You know that, right? You know every socialist regime has a personality cult. Well, Hitler had one, and it's still working today. It's like people just admire him like he's some great, you know, magnificent hero or something. He was a deeply flawed person. He could have taken Austria and kept it and gone down as the greatest German leader of the 20th century. But he didn't. He kept pushing, and it led to a war, and it burned Europe to the ground, and he hated Slavic people. He wanted to genocide them, and people think he's the hero of the white race. It's just retarded. And that's it. Sorry, guys. Sorry if that hurts your feelings. Sorry if everybody on the internet has the opposite opinion. Well, they're all dumb. Everyone's dumb. What do you want to say? Like, it's a mob. It's an internet mob. People are under the impression that, oh, the internet, it's freedom of speech and individual opinion. No, it's not. It's a giant mob. Everybody just agrees with everybody else. It's massive amounts of peer pressure. Anyway, guys, that was a little ramble. Thank you for listening. I enjoyed this, guys. Solo streaming. That was fun. We covered Georgism. We covered social democracy, democratic socialism, and just just take the North, you know. We got to take the North. We got to destroy the Labour Party. That's the real path to action. Last 14 years has just been people like saying you got to destroy the Tories, but I mean the North, they could have voted for UKIP in 2015, they could have voted for the Brexit Party, they could have voted for reform. They could have done it, and they didn't. Because Northerners are walking around the place thinking that the Tories are the problem. But it's not. They're the problem. They're the fucking problem. Northerners are the problem. Okay? Northerners are voting to bring Pakistani grooming gangs into the country. Northerners are voting for Pakistani grooming gangs. Get that into your heads. It's not the South that's voting for it. It's the Northerners that are voting for it. And yet they're sitting on the internet going, oh, I'm based, I'm from the North. No, you're not. You're not based. You're voting for the Labour Party. You absolute spastics, the lot of you. Jesus Christ almighty. Have I got to be the guy that points this out? Anyway. Yeah, London votes Labour. Well, yeah, well, London's a foreign country. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening. Okay, don't be offended, right? I'm trying to ruffle your feathers to make you think, right? I'm trying to just like wake you up a little bit. But you know, I love everybody, and I'm just trying to save my country. All right, I just want to. We need to destroy the Labour Party. That's all I'm trying to say. So thanks. Cheers, guys. Cheers. Thank you. Happy solstice, by the way.